Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and just come on, having a morning coffee to do another video on Homeric epics in the Gospel of Mark. And before I did a review of the book by Dennis R. MacDonald, but I kind of wanted to go over a few things that he talked about in the book, because there are some pretty good comparisons that are out there. And here MacDonald ends up thinking he's the only one that thought of these ideas and wrote about them, but that's kind of untrue. Comparing them extensively to the Gospel of Mark, he may be the first ones. However, people were drawing comparisons to these sorts of things fairly early on. If you want a psychological analysis of the Odyssey, one of the viewers pointed out, and I had to go back and pull the book, by Joseph Campbell, Occidental Mythology, and here on page 161 he starts discussing the Odyssey and talking about the major themes and how they apply psychologically, as far as transformations, depression, and threshold crossing, illuminations, stuff like that, which is really, really interesting. But as far as our topic here, people have questions. Why was Mark written like it was, and why are there some things in Mark that do not appear in Luke and in Matthew? So it seems that they may have noticed these issues. One example being the mention of the sons of thunder, which is directly related to Zeus, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But that was cleaned up in later texts. So that's why I believe Mark is earliest, and this is another way of reading it, that maybe Mark follows some of the Greek themes, and the text of Mark could be more Hellenized than people actually realize. I want to stress that after reading Greek mythology, after reading the Aeneid and the Iliad and the Odyssey, you will not have any problems with or think it out of the ordinary that walking on water, raising the dead, transfigurations are anything unusual. It's all in that literature, and it's excellent stuff. Here, Vulcan, makes these golden shoes so the gods can fly and walk on the water and such. So I know Minerva changed the very appearance of Odysseus, and even when he comes back home to Ithaca, he's surrounded by a cloud, so not too many people can see him and know who he is until he's really revealed. And even concealing the identity of Christ, what Mark tried to get across in his gospel. We'll get to that, and we'll get to the suitors, why Odysseus had to disguise himself, and why Mark has Jesus laying low to the public, only revealing a few things to his disciples. And also, why are the disciples acting like a bunch of dummies? In the New Testament, people wonder, here you have these apostles, Jesus telling them everything, and they act like a bunch of dummies. Well, we're going to get into that also. And another thing I'm going to get into is the idea or the theme of going to sleep, the sleeping sailors, and we already mentioned the transfiguration, and MacDonald brings up the idea of the feast for thousands. So we'll check that out. Has some excellent texts. I believe it was the Feast of Menelaus in the Odyssey, and there was another one that Telemachus, the son of Odysseus, while searching for his father, came upon his father's old friends, and they showed him great hospitality with feasts, and also the descents to the underworld, both in the Iliad and in the Odyssey. That happens, and they have feasts or dinners before they go to the underworld and the return. And also the idea of seers, muses, and like the character Tiresias, who know the future, and here when Odysseus meets him in the underworld, he tells Odysseus about the dangers that lie ahead on his travels, and warns him about what's going on in his house. This is to escape the fate that Agamemnon had when he got home. He was killed by his wife. So, to avoid that, Odysseus ends up. Also, McDonald lists water carriers. We already talked about Hades, death prediction, and violent deaths. What's interesting here is the violent deaths would be Turnus in the Aeneid, and Aeneas fighting before the walls, and the gods desert him, and also when the gods desert Hector, when Achilles, after chasing him around the walls of Troy, Hector finally realizes that the gods deserted him at a crucial moment, and Hector is run through with the spear of Achilles. So we'll compare that to the violent death of Christ. And what's also interesting is MacDonald makes the point that because everybody ran, Odysseus is washed up or set on Ithaca by himself, because his whole crew, due to their disobedience, shall we say, killed the cattle of the sun, so they were punished. Their ship was totally destroyed by lightning bolt, and Odysseus was allowed to be set adrift by himself. Shows that the desertion of the disciples in the New Testament, and comparing that to the two people on the cross. So instead of the sons of thunder being on the left and on the right, Jesus is now between two criminals, and he's by himself, just like Hector and just like Turnus on the battlefield. So excellent comparisons here, and we'll get into these a little bit further in the next video. So that's just a highlight. Take care, friends. Remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.